Hi, and welcome to a little thought experiment. Would a knight have been a better fighter if he had a Judo black belt? The late medieval plate harnesses are one of the most protective armors ever built. Even modern protection can't stand up against historical harnesses. But how can you defeat a nearly invincible armor? One possibility often mentioned is Judo. So the question is, would a knight have been a better fighter if he had a Judo black belt? Or would Judo have been an effective martial art against European knights? The answer to both questions is succeed. Yes. Perhaps Judo is the most effective martial art for a knight, after learning how to stab someone with a sword or a pole weapon. Up to 50% of my knight fights end in close combat, even if the swords were sharp and narrow. So it is indeed important to know how to fight in a close combat. When you watch realistic knight fights, you can easily get the feeling that it would make more sense to throw away your sword, grab your dagger and go into close combat. Unfortunately, the opponent won't wait and will try to stab you with a spear or sword before at a distance where you can't reach him. So it's better to start a fight with a longer weapon. But when it comes to close combat, out of exhaustion or necessity, it is necessary to use techniques that gain an advantage over the strength and mass of the opponent and his armor. Judo is based on a large extent on techniques that were already used in feudal Japan by samurai. Samurai as well as knights were a trained class of warriors who went into battle heavily armored. Technique that made the samurai feared elite warriors should therefore seem equally useful to European knights. But in history of mankind, the wheel was probably invented not only once. Although wrestling techniques for close combat and ground fighting exists in different cultures and time periods. Most of the sources of medieval sword fighting and armored duel came from Germany. The ancient German martial art of Ringen or Ringen includes many techniques that were known in Judo and other martial arts. Ringen was a popular sport in the late medieval ages and competitions were held at many festivals. These wrestling techniques were also part of various military trainings for knights, as the writings of Hans Talhofer, Paulus Hector Mehr or the Gladiatoria show. Many of the wrestling techniques involve fighting with daggers or swords in close combat, as short thrust weapons or additional levers in wrestling. Most fights end with the use of a weapon, but in order to use it properly, the fighters often have to gain a superior position in close combat or ground fighting. Due to the various armor gaps, the dominant position are not always the same as those we consider today in Judo or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Sometimes it is a disadvantage to be on top when the opponent can work your inner leg with a dagger. In general, however, you have advantages when your opponent is on the ground and you are still standing or can bend over him. While in Judo you have to grab the cloth, knights with gauntlets have more problems to grab the chest plate of their opponents. But there are also new anchor points, so in armor it's often easier to grab the arms or the elbow plates, and it's harder to wriggle free from a grip. So let's take a closer look at a few techniques. The first technique is an upper leg throw. In Judo it is taught as uki goshi. The opponent is thrown over the upper part of the outstretched hind leg and can be stepped on the ground. In the German sources it's called ein Wurf aus dem Einwinden. This means a throw from the inside of the twine. The next technique is the throw over the hip, known in Judo as Ogoshi. In the German sources it is called ein Wurf über die Hüf. This can be translated literally as a throw over the hip. The throw over the extended leg and calf is called Taiyutoshi in Judo. Also in the German sources you can find throws over the leg and knee with the same mechanics. The outer foot sweep is called Osotogari in Judo. This technique uses the calf and heel like a sickle to sweep the opponent's supporting leg away from the outside and apply pressure on the opposite shoulder of the opponent. Also in the German sources you can find Beinsicheln and Fußfeger. Overlaps can be found in a large part of techniques, even if not all are completely identical. One example for similarities would be Ushimate with an inner leg sweep. Also variants of Ooshigari with an inner leg sweep when entering or with hooking the opponent's leg. You can also find a variant of Katagurama with grabbing the wrist. Techniques where you drop backwards or over the side to throw the opponent over you, as in Sumo Gaeshi, are also found in Ringen. Numerous counter techniques like Ushiro Goshi can be found in the German sources as well. Also, grappling to the legs are shown in both martial arts, like in Sumo Gaeshi. Ringen offers over a dozen leg takedown possibilities, which show grip options from different angles and with different throwing directions. Ringen is more than just judo from medieval Germany. In Ringen you find techniques that are more familiar from other martial arts, such as Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu or MMA. The techniques also include pressure techniques on the lyrax, kicks to the knee, hooking the opponent and dragging with him to the ground, grip techniques and their counterparts. Even the ground fight and dishonored techniques are part of Ringen. The techniques of Ringen are an important part of fights between knights. A knight who is stabbed worth nothing, but a knight who is captured brings a lot of ransom. And even if you have to fight to the death, the probability is high that you will not overcome the armor right away and it will come to close combat. When wrestling in armor, some conditions change compared to wrestling without armor. Besides throwing techniques, it is necessary to deal with the additional weight of the armor, to keep one's balance, as well as to shift the opponent's force and maneuver in other directions. Other anchor points in grappling also play a role in Ringen in armor. For example, the twisting of the helmet, leverage forces on the opponent's neck, limited vision, and sense of touch play a big role in wrestling in armor. And finally, the use of a weapon can ruin any good technique, because a throw counts for nothing if you end up with a dagger between your ribs. So, what was my point? Maybe a knight would be a better fighter if he had a judo black belt. But I think a fully trained knight could do everything a Judo black belt could do, and was in no way inferior to a samurai. He even had the better armor. Let me know what you think about the martial arts of knights and samurai. Have a nice day, and thanks for your support.